Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we've got a new card that we need to be talking about. Well, a couple new cards, I suppose, from Black Bolt and White Flare. And look, it's Zoroark. You can already guess what one of the attacks is going to do. It does what Zoroark does. But, there's a lot to be very excited about here. Even the Zorua is actually sneaky pretty good. It's single energy, 30 damage, plus it does 10 to itself. Alright. Well, the 10 to itself isn't ideal, but obviously basic Pokemon single energy, you're now getting a one-hit KO on Badoo. That's not terrible. There are games where Badoo is sitting in the active, shutting down your trainer cards or item cards, turn after turn after turn. Having a nice single energy option on your main Pokemon's pre-evolution, not too shabby. It's actually kind of legit in that regard. But then again, don't forget that Dusknoir still sees a whole bunch of play, and Duskull has got 60 HP, and is weak to darkness. So you get a one-hit KO on that as well. There's actually, I'm not saying it's some phenomenal Uber card you're going to just play on its own, but I am actually telling you there are legit reasons why this Zorua could be kind of fun. It's not why you're playing Zoroark, but actually this attack is kind of cool and it's a hefty bonus. As for Zoroark though, I love this card, ladies and gentlemen. I love this card. What we've got is 120 HP stage 1, and we've actually got two attacks I really like. First attack for a single darkness energy does 30 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Cool. And look, this is not always going to be a phenomenal attack. Now, sometimes you're going to find yourself against a deck that is playing Area Zero Underdepths, that is really trying to build up their bench, and they're getting 8 bench Pokemon down and you're doing 240 damage. It's not going to happen that often. Don't get too excited, but presumably there'll be some games where you can stretch up that high, and when you have those games, you're going to be having a jolly old time. But the thing is, we've actually got some sneaky ways around right now where we can make our opponent bench Pokemon. There will be plenty of games where your opponent basically has to bench a bunch of Pokemon just by virtue of the deck that they're playing. But I'm saying we've got some ways around right now where we can basically make our opponent bench Pokemon, and if we want to stretch up for this attack, we actually can if we want to. Like, for instance, the Flute, accompanying Flute, a card which does see a not insignificant amount of play right now. Look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. You may find any number of basic Pokemon and put them onto your opponent's bench. That'll work. And this actually, you've got kind of a double-edged thing going on here. Because on the one hand, this is going to be fun for doing extra damage with Zoroark. But then on the other hand, you could be benching Pokemon your opponent doesn't want here. And this could actually work in the same way it kind of works in control decks, where you are, as a nice little bonus, filling up your opponent's bench with stuff they don't want. And then, of course, we've got Lily's Rabombi with the inviting Wink ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may have your opponent reveal their hand and put any number of basic Pokemon you find there onto your bench. So either of these Pokemon will potentially work to put multiple of your opponent's Pokemon onto their bench and really fill up their bench in a way which is going to be a little bit annoying. We do still have Erica's Invitation from 151 that lets you look at your opponent's hand and bench a Pokemon. You can then switch it into the active if you like. And this has got a couple of things going on because firstly, extra bench Pokemon, extra 30 damage, yay. But also this can allow you to get an easy KO on something that actually wasn't on the field beforehand. So this could be a fun little way of doing it. We do also have Milotic. I'm not so keen on Milotic. Milotic, when you evolve into it, you get to put a basic Pokemon for your discard onto your bench, and so does your opponent. The problem here is, as much as you get to recover, which is nice, and your opponent benches an extra Pokemon to do an extra 30 damage for you, which is nice, there is also a question here of, hang on a second, your opponent gets to choose. This could be one that helps out your opponent, whereas in all the others, well, most of the time at least, you should be getting a nice little choice there, and that's going to be a little bit of a bonus. This is not the main attack I like Zoroark for, but I do think it is a very useful attack. You can hit up to 150 normally, and when you're hitting weakness, that is not too shabby. But it's also worth bearing in mind there will be some decks out there that are Area 01 Depths decks, and this will be phenomenal against them. We love it. But then we've got Foul Play. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. It's Zoroark. Probably the best deck I ever made was a multiple stage 1 counter deck. But one of the main Pokemon in there was the original Zoroark, the one from Black and White base, which let you do, well, just let you copy one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. It was redonkulous. It was amazing. Now, that was for 2 energy, and it was at a time where we had double colorless in the format. And now it's 3 energy, and we don't have double colorless, so we do have a really good energy. We'll get there in a moment. And it was just so good. And there were multiple uses for it, but the original reason for the inclusion in the deck was because it was kind of hilarious using it against Black Kyurem EX. There was this big 2-prize Pokemon that could do an obscene amount of damage and had to discard 3 energy to do so, but it was worth it. And yeah, I just came along with Zoroark here and copied it for a double colorless energy and got an instant 1-hit KO. Huge prize swing. It was absurdly good there. I'm not sure we're quite in the same situation here as I was back with Black Kyurem EX back then. But make no mistake about it, the potential here is absolutely off the charts because we've got Ignition Energy. And the thing about Ignition Energy is it's free energy. Now, it only works if it's attached to an evolution Pokemon. Otherwise, it's just a single colorless energy. And it falls off at the end of your turn. But I'm kind of all right with that, honestly. And it's not if you're behind on prizes. It falls off at the end of your turn. And if it's on an evolution Pokemon, it's free colorless energy. And obviously, like, these are in the same set. We get it at this stage. We know what's going on. This is a very deliberate thing. Zoroark is one of the main Pokemon for which this energy is intended. This is intended to be used with, well, it's probably other Pokemon around, but Zoroark is clearly one of the main beneficiaries of this energy. And it's phenomenal. It's a stage 1 Pokemon. You pop it in the active, you attach a single energy card to it, and you just get to copy one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. And it's not always going to work, don't get me wrong. There's not always going to be a good attack to copy. I do understand that. But, you know, you're up against Dragapult. You do 200 damage, and you drop 6 damage counters anywhere you like on the bench. And whereas your opponent's using a stage 2 with 2 energy attachments, you're using a stage 1 with 1 energy attachment. You're actually using this a lot more easily. And like I say, it's not always going to work. Look at something like Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt's attack, and that is what's mostly going to be in the active here, it depends on discarding basic energy from all of your Pokemon. It's only a good attack if you've got lots of basic energy on your Pokemon. So you're not really going to be able to copy that. But something like a Charizard, for instance, that just does 180 plus 30 damage for each prize card your opponent has taken, oh yeah. Oh, that is going to work very nicely indeed. And the point is, with a lot of this, you're going to a lot less effort than your opponent is going to in order to actually try and make sure these attacks are rolling. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the only trick, but I'm saying this is going to be an important trick in your arsenal. And again, it's not just this attack. You can also punish your opponent for benching, and this is why I love this Zoroark so much. Because you've got that double whammy of, if you've got a good attack, I'ma copy it. If you don't have a good attack, but you put a bunch of bench Pokemon down, I'ma punish it. If you have very few bench Pokemon and an attack I can't copy, you know what? This is a stage 1 Pokemon. It's taking up like 8 spots in my deck. I will attack with something else instead, because actually playing this Zoroark is going to give me plenty of room in my deck for playing other stuff. And as someone who did make a ridiculous stage 1 counter deck back in the day with a Zoroark very similar to this, oh, you better believe I'm looking at this Zoroark and saying, I want to do it again. Also worth noting, we do have that new Hilda supporter card that just lets you search your deck for an evolution Pokemon and an energy of any description. Yeah, so go search Zoroark and Ignition Energy. Oh look, you've literally already got everything you need to make this work. Gee whiz, look how that worked out. And I should, just before we go here, remind you guys, I'm sure you all know this, but let me remind you just quickly anyway. Zoroark and N Zoroark are not the same. You cannot evolve N's Zoroark from regular Zoroark here. It doesn't work. So if you want to play both of them, you will have to play them as separate evolution line. Zorua and Zoroark are not the same evolution line as N's Zorua and N's Zoroark. I'm not saying you can't play them together. What I am saying is that they are separate evolution lines that do not work the same. There we go. Now you've been told. I'm giving this 5 Wassies. I don't even care. This is one of the most exciting cards I've seen for several sets. There are certain cards that are just, oh, that's the way I like to build decks. This card is how I like to build decks. And I know I'm kind of just playing Mammoth at the moment, but this might be the kind of Pokemon for which I have to make an exception. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Ray of Light, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.